We've said that every program starts with a need or a problem, and the South Mountain Resort has 4 types of rooms, and they like to have an application that will show the charges for a client staying in the resort, choosing one of the 4 rooms, each having a different rate, and whether or not they have a vehicle to park, there's a parking fee, and then show the charges, including a tax. So that's our problem. Let me jump over and show you the program running so you can get a feel for what our project is. Here then is my program running for the resort stay charges, and we tell the user there are 4 types of rooms, and we give them the 4 rooms of standard, deluxe, jacuzzi suite, grand suite with the price per night, and we list those as 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to use those numbers for the user to choose which room they want. In addition, we tell them there's a $26 parking fee per night if they have a vehicle, and then tell them the program's going to calculate and display the room and parking charges based on the room type, selection, the length of stay, and an 8.9% tax rate along with the total sum. We ask them then to enter the room type, and I'm going to choose 3, the jacuzzi suite. Press the enter key, and now I'm asked to enter the length of the stay. So we'll say 4 nights. Do I have a vehicle? Yes. Press the enter key, and I'm told the charges that for those 4 nights at $329 per night, I'm going to pay $13.16. The 4 nights at $26 each for my vehicle is going to be a $104 parking fee. And then the subtotal is $14.20. Adding those 2 values together, we take 8.9% of that, $126.38. And then the total charge is $15.46. Now I do a little trick here, having them press the enter key at the end. So I just simply press the enter key and my program terminates. And I'll show you why I do that. If I come to my program in Windows and I just double click on it, it doesn't launch it into the editor, it launches it into the Windows console. And so again, I'm going to choose a room type. This time we'll do a deluxe room. I'm going to stay 5 nights. And my stay, I'm going to say no, I don't have a vehicle while I'm staying there. Press the enter key. And so I get these charges, and I can see everything, and then I press the enter key to end, and that console goes away. Let me change my code just real briefly. Let me open my program. The very last line of my code, and I will walk you through all this code, I have a close equals input, press the enter key to end. So we have the program pause termination until they interact at the end by pressing the enter key. If I comment that out, and I'm going to save this, and I'm going to double click on this again. So here is my program running. I'm going to select the standard room. We're going to stay 5 nights, not have a car. And notice I don't get any results because it prints that out, and as soon as it's done printing out the output, there's nothing to stop it from closing the window. So that's why I have that little press the enter key to end input statement. Let me walk you through the flow chart for this and the code I would write along with that. As we start our program, we're going to use some constants to maintain the rates of our rooms and the parking, display some information to the user about what the program does and the different room choices, and then get input from them on the rooms, days, and parking. And here's our code. So again, as I said, we're going to start with some rates. And I use these at the beginning because if we ever want to change these, and obviously room rates and things and tax rates change, all we do is change it here at the top, and then we'll just reference these throughout the code. We're going to print out the 4 different room choices and what this program does, and I use the triple quote multi-line print statement and use a dot format with some placeholders to get show those room rates. And then finally, we're going to get the information from the user on the room type, the days, and the vehicle. And the room type and the days will be integers, and the vehicle will be a string, which we're going to convert to an uppercase. So we're going to learn about strings next week. But the dot upper, if they put in a lower y or a lower n, will become an uppercase y or an uppercase n. Next, we use an if, elif, else structure to look at which room the user chose and calculate the room charge, which will be the room rate times the number of days. And we'll also set a room display that we'll use in our output where we show the room charge and how that was calculated. Our else fork will kick in if the user doesn't choose 1, 2, 3, or 4 as the room types. They put in some bogus data, and we're going to display that as an error. So we're going to set the room display to error and then use that in our output to determine what we should show. Let's take a look at the coding of this if, elif, else structure that looks at which room is chosen. Each of our ifs and elif forks look at one of the room types being a standard room, a deluxe room, a jacuzzi rate or jacuzzi suite, and a grand suite, and then calculates the room charges variable as the rate for that room times the days, and then also creates a string variable called room display that we'll use in the output of concatenating the room type, the rate, and the number of days or nights that were being stayed. And then the else fork, again, we're setting room display to an error, and we will check against that when we go to display our output. Now we're going to use another if-else structure. So this is a sequential structure after our first one. And here we're going to check to see if the user is parking a car or not, and then setting the parking rates or parking charges, and also some information that will be displayed in the output. That's our parking info variable. Let's take a look at that code. We're going to default to charging them parking fees unless they specifically put in an N. So if vehicle does not equal uppercase N, then we're going to set the parking changes to the parking fee times the days that they're staying or the nights that they're staying. And then again, setting parking info string variable that we'll use in the output. If they put in an N, then we are going to set the parking fees to 0 and display the output as being not applicable. Next, we'll use one more if-else structure, and that is we're going to check to see if room display is equal to an error. And if it is, we're going to print that it's an error. Otherwise, we're going to show the room, the parking, the subtotal, the tax, and the total. We have to calculate the subtotal and the tax and total. And so those are two different forks. And then we're going to conclude with that I showed you earlier, that input statement to pause the execution so we can see the display before we terminate the window. Let's take a look at that final bit of code. Here we're using an if statement with a boolean of room display is equal to error, which we set earlier if they chose a room other than 1, 2, 3, or 4. And then we're going to print you did not enter a room type of 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then tell them we're terminating the program. Assuming, though, that they put in a valid room, we're going to print the charges, showing the room charges, the parking charges. We're going to calculate the subtotal as adding those together, calculate the tax as the tax rate times the subtotal, and the total as the subtotal plus the tax, and display those values. And I'm formatting those to 9 spaces. They line up with 2 decimals. And then we're showing the values that come after that in terms of the room display, the parking info, and the total charges. Let me just add a thank you for staying at South Mountain Resort. And then once again, I have that input statement that pauses the display before the program terminates.